There's so many, and y'all needed your screens. There's only 5, 6, 7.
We'll go ahead and begin. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this afternoon's agenda meeting. We'll review those action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday, May 13th at 6 p.m. right here at City Hall. We'll call upon our city manager, Mr. Bill Burrow, to review those action items.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. You will have one guest. It's a guest of the mayor and a student at Arkansas School for Math, Science, and the Arts. Be given a presentation on youth empowerment of the Youth Empowerment Initiative. Moving into your consent agenda, first item is consider resolution R2585, a resolution acknowledging receipt of the City of Hot Springs financial statements for February 2025, and our financial director, Karen Scott, will present.
Thank you. Good afternoon. The monthly financial statements are issued to keep city management and constituents apprised of the financial condition of the City of Hot Springs. The February 2025 financial statements will be provided as an attachment to your board action request, and staff recommends acknowledging receipt of the February 2025 financial statements.
Any questions of Karen? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next two items are consider resolution R2586 and resolution R2587, which are resolutions appointing someone to the Hot Springs Historic District Commission and the Hot Springs Animal Control Advisory Committee, and our city clerk, Ms. Morrissey, will present.
Thank you. The special meeting will be held after this agenda meeting where you will interview the applicants. And so these two items will be prepared according to your nominations after the special meeting.
Very good. Any questions of Harmony? Thank you.
Next, we have consider resolution R2588, a resolution approving work order number 2500447-1 to the master agreement for professional services between the City of Hot Springs and Garver LLC for professional services related to the repairs of Taxiway A, and our airport director, Don Rollett, will present.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This resolution is for the repair of Taxiway Alpha. We have a sinkhole that has appeared in the main intersection. In your packet, there's some photos. I think the photos start on page 77 of your monitor. There's two sets of sinkholes, one primary and then a secondary. And this resolution would go toward the administrative and testing for the area to see what it is we're going to have to do with it in order to repair it. And the city, some of the city departments were out there today to look at it. They're also going to be evaluating it next week to see if we can come up with the cause of it.
Very good. Any questions for Don? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Don, can you share with us again, what did you say the cause was? Was it sinkholes?
It is a sinkhole.
You just don't
and
know how it sunk?
Yeah, we're looking to see what the cause of it underneath is that's causing it to sink. So this work order is for geotech and administrating of and testing of the area. Meanwhile, next week, the city's going to come out and dig down with a backhoe, and we're going to try to get to the root of the cause underneath it.
Is geotech's purpose to kind of highlight the exact location of it? Is that what they're doing? Kind of looking down up underneath the ground where you don't dig up the wrong spot?
Well, there is a sinkhole there. It's visible, so we're going to dig that part of it up, and then the geo would go in and they'll do drillings, core samples of the area, so we can see what the stuff is underneath the taxiway that's apparently given way.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
And those photos that Don mentioned, they'll be in your packet when you receive it. Next item is consider resolution R2589, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of grant funding for the continuation of the State Arkansas Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, or the STEP grant, for fiscal year 2026, and Chief Harvenden is here to discuss that item.
Thank you, sir. Since 1998, the Hot Springs Police Department has participated in the Highway Safety Sub-Grant Agreement of the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, also known as STEP. This grant is administered through the Arkansas Highway Safety Office. The goal of the project is to decrease the number of traffic-related vehicle accidents and fatalities by conducting specific traffic enforcement operations in the city of Hot Springs and Garland counties, such as DWI, seatbelt, distracted driving, and speed enforcement. These enforcement activities are important to the overall motorist safety and are part of a larger nationwide effort and mobilization with programs such as Click It or Ticket. This grant provides funding to reimburse overtime expenditures, personnel expenses, and fuel vehicle maintenance costs specific to these enforcement activities. It also funds traffic enforcement related equipment such as radar and LiDAR units. These expenditures require no match from the city. The Hot Springs Police Department's total budget request for the fiscal year 2026 STEP grant is $221,509.72. These specific requests are for reimbursement of overtime for enforcement activities and equipment in the way of radar units, LiDAR units, and 70 child safety seats, which we will give out to members of the community in need of them. There is no fiscal impact to the city because there is no funds match requirement. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions of Chief Harvenden?
I have a quick question.
Director Holliday?
Thank you. Is this the program we had talked about maybe a year or so ago, possibly looking at whether or not you'd be able to enforce pedestrian-related activities as well? Did we determine whether or not that's possible?
They have not specifically said that we can do that yet.
Okay.
It's not part of the grant packet.
Okay.
There's specific worksheets, and you'll see that within your packet, or the grant application will be in there. You'll see a specific work, or like a budget line for each type of enforcement activity, such as distracted driving, seatbelt, and that is not one that they've added yet.
Okay. Thank
Although
you.
it could be forthcoming.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Next item is consider Resolution R2590, a resolution awarding a term contract to Brant Lock Construction Incorporated for street cuts and pavement repairs, and our Assistant City Engineer, Michael Hill, will discuss the item. Mike?
Good afternoon. The city sent out invitations to submit competitive bids for the supply of certain street repairs. They were advertised and sent out to vendors. Brent Lock was the only response that we received. The response was evaluated, and it is in accordance with Hot Springs Code. The notice of intent to award has been published and no protests have been filed. Staff recommends awarding the term contract to Brent Lock Construction for street cuts and pavement repairs. The term contract presented for the supply of street cuts and pavement repairs is in an amount not to exceed budgetary constraints. It may be renewed for 4 12-month extensions upon board approval through the annual budgeting process. Any questions?
Any questions of Mike? Director Garcia?
Thank you. Is this a new vendor?
No, he had the contract last time.
So he's the current,
He is the current vendor, yes.
so it's just a new contract with the 4-year extensions on
Right.
it?
He no longer, he had already been here for quite a while, so we put it out again. Actually encouraged some others to try to put in, get a little more competition. And
Yeah.
we had one more vendor almost finish the paperwork, but then just stopped. So he's the only one that finished all the application process.
And we've been pleased with his work.
Yes, he's very busy, and
Yeah.
he's very busy by also the gas company, AT&T, because he knows our stuff, so he
Right.
gets their business too. So the problem is he's just really busy.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Mike.
Next item is consider Resolution R2591, a resolution requesting that the Arkansas Department of Transportation consider the reclassification of Honeycutt Street in Hot Springs, Arkansas to a local road. And again, Mike.
Okay. Currently, RDOT identifies Honeycutt Street as an urban collector, but the city's own street classification table and a recent traffic count suggest otherwise. A recent count shows fewer than 350 cars on Honeycutt in a 24-hour period. This falls within the federal standard of 80 to 700 for a rural local road. Reclassifying Honeycutt as a local road is strategically important because it makes the city eligible for RDOT's local bridge program, which provides a much more favorable 90-10 cost sharing for bridge improvements. This is a better funding option than what is typically available for a collector roadway and would help the city save money on needed infrastructure upgrades. Adopting this resolution aligns with both federal functional standards and our own planning documents, ensuring we stay consistent and competitive when seeking future transportation grants and funding. Any questions?
Any questions to Mike? Thank you.
Next, consider Resolution R2592, a resolution approving the procurement of two 2025 F-250 3/4 ton regular cab 4x4 trucks with utility bed equipped with Tommy liftgate from Steve Landers Auto Group. This will be in the amount of $123,958, and our Public Works Director, Ron Seabright, will discuss the item.
Good afternoon. A request for bids was duly advertised and issued. Bid packages were sent out to different vendors with only 4 vendors responding. The vendors responding were Sewell Family. They were $142,360. Superior Auto Group, they were at $136,148. Mark McClarty was at $125,124, and Steve Landers Group, which is $123,958. All bids were evaluated, and notice of intent to award to Landers was published. No protests were received. Staff recommends awarding the bid to Steve Landers Auto Group as they were the lowest responsible bidder. These vehicles will be replacing units 8262, a 2002 Ford F-150 with 83,502 miles, and 8811, which is a 2006 Chevrolet Silverado with 178,133 miles.
Any questions?
Mayor, members of the board, this item is being brought to you in lieu of a previous purchase that was authorized pursuant to agenda item number 15. You'll see later in your packet with Smart Automotive. That is,
Correct.
we're asking you to repeal that ordinance when you get to it.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Next item is consider Resolution R2593, a resolution authorizing the procurement of fire suppression, fire alarm, access control, intrusion detection systems for 900 Whittington Avenue by Johnson Controls pursuant to the Cooperative Purchasing Program through Sourcewell. This will be in the amount of $124,664. Ron?
This system will provide fire suppression, fire alarm, burglar, and access control systems to the entire building of 900 Whittington. Johnson Controls has provided these systems for City Hall Annex, and 324 Malvern. Johnson Controls will provide quality products and services to the city, and the total purchase price is $124,664, which is within the budget allotted.
Any questions for Ron on this? Hearing none, thank you.
Next item is consider Resolution R2594, a resolution awarding a bid to McGuire Iron Incorporated for certain repairs and repainting of the Amity Road ground storage tank. And our project manager, Todd Pillar, will discuss the item. Todd?
Thank you and good afternoon. Our 1 million gallon ground storage tank out on Amity Road, we need to put it back in service when we get our new water plant online. And it was built in 2006 and needs to be upgraded to the Arkansas Department of Health standards. We bid it on March 3rd, and there were 7 bids received, and McGuire Iron of Sioux Falls, South Dakota was the low responsible bidder, and their bid was in the amount of $308,500, and our budget we had was $583,000, and it will be taken from the 2023 water bond fund for funding.
Any questions from Director Garcia?
Thank you. Will all of the bidders, were there other bidders?
There was 7.
Will they be in the packet, all that
Yes,
information?
they will. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Harmony, I don't know how I did that, but
I'll double check it.
okay.
They'll be in there.
They'll be in there.
They're in there, though.
You want the full packet or the bid tabulation?
Well, I'd like to see who all bid.
Bid tab.
Well,
will
the
have
bid
that.
tabulation's in there, but if you want to see each individual contractor's bids, Harmony can
After we see that, if there's any questions, we'll let the city manager know.
Yes, ma'am. Not a problem.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Next item is consider resolution R2595, a resolution approving change order number 7 to the agreement with Tome Group Incorporated for the construction of Phase 3 of the water treatment plant as part of the Lake Ouachita Water Supply Project. Change order in the amount of $113,640. And again, Mr. Pillar.
Thank you. As the resolution that you approved, R10268, anything, the amount was $349,500 total. And the, anything over $60,000 has to come to the board. So what staff has done with Chris Engineers and Tome is we combined a whole bunch of little things together, and they added up to $113,639 and $55. They the total now on that $349,500 is $247,462 and 40 cents, and that's on a over $40 million contract. Pretty good.
Any questions on this item, Director Garcia?
Just for clarification, did I understand it correctly that this is due to the city asking for amendment to do some additional work that wasn't there in their agreement originally, not from cost overruns?
Not cost overruns, yes.
Okay. Just wanted
This
to
ti-
make
yep.
sure I.
It's
correctly-
operation and maintenance items.
Okay, thank you.
And the board had originally approved 340 some odd thousand, I think.
$349,500.
Yeah.
But because this one was over my person, my
Right.
authority, we wanted to bring it to the board.
Yep.
Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So does that mean that that essentially is bringing down the cost for this project by $102,000? That's what you're saying? It was first, I'm looking for the right way to ask this question. It was first vision to cost about $349, but with this change order, the cost to do all these projects is coming in at $247.
Correct.
So that's about 102 less.
Well, moving into the project, we knew that there were going to be minor things that were going to need to be tweaked, and the board originally approved the staff to have change orders up to a certain limit, which was the $349,000, with a caveat that if any of the change orders were more than $60,000, they would come back to the board. We knew going in, there's always, it's like building a house, you're always going to see something that you need to tweak or something else you need to do. And these were four items, and a couple of them, if I remember, Todd, were like hose reels, making sure we had hose reels in a couple of new areas of the plant. Can't remember the other three, but those will be in your packet. But these are really small, what we would consider small items. They bundled them, and when they bundled them, they came over that 60,000 mark. So that's why they're in front of you. But it's not in addition to what you've already approved.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well said.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next item is consider resolution R2596, a resolution approving the extension of the contract with GovOS Inc. for the annual subscription, software, and services related to short-term rental management, compliance, and tax collection and distribution. And our Planning and Development Director, Ms. Kathy Selman, will discuss that item.
Thank you. Good afternoon. In May of 2023, a resolution was adopted by the board following advertising and invitations for proposals to vendors to provide software and services related to short-term rental management, compliance, and tax collection and distribution. Visit Hot Springs agreed at that time to be responsible for 1/3 of the total annual subscription cost for the short-term rental management software and services. Project pricing, which was $76,870 under that resolution, stated pricing for renewal terms will include a 7% increase from the prior term. The current contract expires May 17, 2025. A GovOS proposal for renewal dated January 17th of this year presents an amended annual fee increase on each anniversary date of the agreement, the fees will be increased by up to 10% based on the prior year's fees. The contract automatically renews unless terminated. The new fee increase is open-ended, not to exceed 10%. Because of the additional fiscal impact resulting from the up to 10% language impact, we bring the contract for board consideration. And the annual contract value for 2025-2026 is $88,546.56.
Any questions of Kathy on this item? Director Garcia?
Does this software program help identify STRs that are not registered with?
Yes, it does.
And is there a link for citizens to where they can go log on and input?
I don't think that there is, but they can do that through our website, either through the citizen comment function on the city's website, or they can call the planning department, and we would happily take that information and follow it up.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, you will have a public hearing that evening to request abandon, close, and vacate a portion of a certain city right-of-way located along State Street. However, that'll be part of another item on your agenda in just a moment. Moving into your new business, you have one resolution on new business, R2597, and it's considered a resolution awarding a bid to Melton Excavating, Inc. for the structure demolition at 228 Orange Street in the amount of $130,000. And our chief building official, Mike Scott, will discuss that item.
Thank you. The Board of Directors passed a resolution on September 6, 2022, condemning the old Hot Springs High School gymnasium located at 228 Orange Street. Since that time, the Planning Department has requested bids for demolition on 3 occasions. In November of 2022, 2 bids were removed. 2022 bids to remove the structure were received. The first was Environmental Enterprises, came in at $246,249. The second was Melton Excavating at $78,000. And while this was the lower of the 2 bids, it did not allow the cost of removal of the asbestos or lead paint. Following these bids, the city organized the project into 2 phases and requested bids for the removal of the asbestos and lead paint. After receiving 1 bid of $26,000, the Board of Directors passed a resolution on July 2nd, 2024, awarding the project to Environmental Protection Associates, and in August of 2024, Phase 1 of the demolition project was completed. In September of 24, the city opened bids for Phase 2 of the demolition, and at that point, we received only 1 bid of $175,000 from Melton Excavating. Due to the increased bid of the project, the bid was rejected and a new bid planned for 2025. Last month, the city opened the 3rd bid for this project. 2 bids were submitted. Cleve Batten Construction of Texarkana submitted a bid of $1,222,660, and Melton Excavation submitted a bid of $130,000. So, and then since the condemnation of the structure in 2022, the owners have failed to make the needed improvements to the structure, allowing the risk to the public safety to increase, as well as being a blight to the surrounding community. Therefore, the recommendation is to proceed with the Phase 2 of the demolition and request the board award the bid to demolition to Melton Excavating as the lowest responsible bidder.
Any questions of Mike on this item? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. In our packet, will it be included if the taxes are current, or the status of the property taxes?
Yes, ma'am.
On this, and can the city attorney include in our packet any options regarding the besides once this will have a lien filed for this amount when we do this, and then anything beyond that regarding foreclosure or other options?
Yes, ma'am, it will result in a lien being placed on the property. Unfortunately, I won't be able to update a portion of the packet as I'll be leaving for Chicago at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh, okay, that's right. But we can have that, those options provided to the board
On Tuesday.
upon your
Yes.
ability to do so.
Yes, ma'am, I'll update you on that Tuesday. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, you'll begin the ordinances of the evening. This is your first ordinance to consider, ordinance O-2523, an ordinance to abandon, close, and vacate a portion of a certain city right-of-way located along State Street in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and for other purposes. And again, our Assistant City Engineer, Mike Hill.
Hello again. Property owner Kim Everhart filed a petition to vacate a portion of a particular city right-of-way. Mrs. Everhart recently acquired 200 Pullman Avenue, formerly a church building, and is converting it into a residence. As part of the renovations, excavation work was needed to waterproof the foundation of the building. Mrs. Everhart inquired if the sidewalks along State Street must be repaired if they were damaged during the renovations. Engineering department confirmed that the sidewalks were privately placed and did not need to be repaired if damaged. However, a later survey shows a small portion of the private sidewalks encroached on the city's right-of-way along State Street. Mrs. Everhart wishes to fence the property and retain the sidewalks to help with handicap access to the only ramp access to the upper floor. The city's engineering department recommends that approximately 3 feet of right-of-way along State be vacated to allow Mrs. Everhart to retain the sidewalk and fence the yard. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Mike?
Mayor, I would add on this item that the private sidewalk he's discussing, it doesn't go anywhere beyond that second floor. It ends at the back of the property. It doesn't go. And there's sidewalks located on the Pullman side as well as on the opposite side of State Street. So the neighborhood would still have sidewalks in those areas.
Very good. Thank you.
Next is consider ordinance O-2524, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 6523 relating to the purchase of 2 F-250 utility trucks from Smart Ford pursuant to the State of Arkansas Cooperative Purchasing Program. And our Public Works Director, Ron, will discuss. Ron.
On February 18, 2025, the Board of Directors passed ordinance number 6523, waiving competitive bidding as pursuant to ACA 1447-138 and approving the purchase of 2 F-250 Ford 3/4 ton utility bed trucks with timing from Smart Ford as authorized pursuant to the State of Arkansas Cooperative Purchasing Program. However, during the purchasing, after it commenced, became known that these vehicles were 2023 models that they were trying to sell, not 2025. So the transaction was canceled, and we started to go out to bid to get the right vehicles for the group.
Any questions of Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is to repeal that ordinance, and then the previous, ordinance that was earlier
The
is the
resolution
correct
will be
version, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the other 2 Ford F-50 trucks?
Correct.
Except they'll be coming from Steve Landers.
Landers
versus-
instead of Smart?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Just
you.
trying to clarify that.
And they will come fully equipped instead of having
Right.
to
Instead of having to add on
piecemeal, right,
everything.
right.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is consider ordinance O-2525, an ordinance amending Title 16, Chapter 2, ordinance number 6513, and Title 4, Chapter 10 of the Hot Springs Code of Ordinances as they pertain to food truck parts and for other purposes. And our city attorney is going to present that item.
Thank you, Bill. New zoning code has been a priority of the board for many years. It was listed as one of your priorities since 2022, actually beginning the process before that. But since 2022, there have been approximately 25 public meetings discussing the new code. Drafts were provided on the city's website. Communication was as open as it possibly could be. Ultimately, the board adopted the zoning code pursuant to ordinance number 6513 on November the 19th of 2024. it has an effective date of March 1, 2025. Upon the effective date, how this was going to impact businesses became a topic of discussion. During your last board meeting, there was public commentary from operators and owners of various types of mobile food establishments that expressed their concerns about how it might impact. The reason that there was an impact is because this new zoning code did provide for some zoning regulations with respect to food truck parks, not the operational side of food trucks and seasonal vendors, but the parks themselves. In essence, what it said was that ultimately food trucks needed to be located in a food truck park. After the feedback that the board received, I believe it was the April 15th meeting, just kind of looking into it, trying to find a way to resolve this, you know, for the betterment of everybody, both the city and the business owners and their patrons. And so did a little digging. We already regulate to some extent these types of businesses under our transit merchant ordinance. And so they are not defined as food trucks, but defined as mobile food establishments or seasonal food establishments. Those terms can be found as regulations of the State Board of Health. And so essentially what this is intending to do is to use those regulations to identify what we're talking about. And then with respect to the zoning ordinance itself, there's also a provision in there under Article 15 that deals with nonconformities. Sometimes we refer to those as grandfather clauses, but we don't like to use that as a legal term, but that's the common phraseology. And so in essence, what we are presenting to you after meeting with representatives, owners and operators yesterday, Bill and Lance and I met with some of the very people that spoke to you on the 15th with this proposal that I drafted last week, and they were very supportive of this, but it's coming to you for your consideration. The proposed ordinance would implement certain amendments. Those would include seasonal operations, which is essentially your shaved ice, snow cone operations would be exempt from the food park requirement. Mobile food establishments, as defined by the rules promulgated by the Arkansas State Board of Health, which we commonly refer to as food trucks, would be allowed as part of a special event permit. They would be allowed private events such as catering, franchisees of the city, Flossie's at Kimmery Park, our Mexican Horn downtown would be exempt from this requirement. And furthermore, any mobile food establishment or food truck that is holding a duly issued City of Hot Springs business license for an existing location prior to July 1 of 2025 may continue at that location, subject to the provisions of Article 15, which deal with the lawful pre-existing non-conforming uses. And so with that, anyone who is currently operating in that capacity would be able to stay at their present location. After that, any new ones, or if they were to move, would need to locate inside of a park. I also will explain to you that a lawful pre-existing non-conforming use can lapse. If an operator stops using it for that purpose for more than 12 months, then that pre-existing, that grandfathering treatment lapses. So it's as though they never existed at that location, or as though they moved. So that's what's being presented for your consideration. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you have, but our meeting yesterday was extremely positive, but it's up to you.
Any questions of Brian, Director Garcia?
First, I wanted to thank the city management for bringing this back to the board as soon as possible from our last meeting, so thank you for that. And secondly, in our packet, will you include information if this is also covered The Lake Hamilton apartment complex was permitted and built a food truck area that's called catering area, and trucks come in there on weekends or special events, occasions. I didn't understand how what you just said, if that's covered or not, but can that be clarified in the packet?
I need to know more about what their operation is. Are you saying that it is a special event that's approved by the city, or are you saying that it's a catering? What's the circumstance?
Well, when they built this, and in what they built and what was permitted was for them to have a food truck area, but it was covered under catering. But different trucks, it may not be the same trucks every weekend, but usually on the weekends at least, there are trucks there providing meals at certain times. And on holidays or certain things, other trucks may be there. But they have a specified area on their grounds on Modern Street that they have food trucks come in there. And they've been doing that, and it was permissible. Will that still be permissible in this?
But is that not really a kind of their own food court?
Well, except the bathrooms are inside. They don't have separate bathrooms out there at where the trucks are.
They may need to make application to see if they comply with the food truck park.
Well, the food truck park required bathrooms separate.
You said they have bathrooms.
Inside. Under the current regulations, that wasn't enough.
I think it's within 500 feet, though.
Well, but it also can't be an accessory to an existing business. I think it would.
If it's an existing accessory use, but this is not a continuing accessory use. I don't know, that may take more drafting.
Well, I would like more information on that and what type of amendment would be required to what we have before us on Tuesday to get that covered, because it, I believe, should be grandfathered in as well.
Well, there's certainly a number of angles that we can approach it from. You got basically a special event activity that might be a weekend activities. It could be, you know, a food court. Maybe we can look at the bathrooms and that. So I understand what Director Holliday said, accessories, but I think the mood is to work to make it happen.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Brian on this? Thank you.
Mayor, there are no other items on your agenda. I do have a couple of things I want to bring up. One is we've met over the past week. I think we finalized our impact fee study for water. And so we'd like to bring that to the board at an upcoming work session and have Will Dan and Dan Jackson come in and present that document. We're still working on wastewater. There were some things there that we needed to, it was a little more difficult to look at those and see what's growth, what's needed for today. Because on impact fees, you can only use what's growth related in the projects. We have been able to identify those and we've got those separated. He just needs to run the calculations. So wastewater is moving, but water is ready to come to the board. So we'd like to bring that to you over the next month and try to get into a work session for that presentation. Secondly, I received an email, actually it was the newsletter for our sister city, and in there I read that Hanamaki has a deadline coming up if any of the board members are interested in going to Hanamaki. I think it was May 1st. I asked Mary, I said, hey, I just saw this, weren't aware of it. You know, let me present that and get back to you. So we've got a little bit of grace there. As you know, we did send 2 staff members last year, prepared to do that again this year. I wanted to bring this to the board's attention as well. And that's all, Mayor.
Director Garcia?
Quick question, as they're continuing to work on the stormwater impact fees study identifying growth, is there any work being done on the
It does not believe
stormwater?
does not believe we could have a stormwater impact fee. He did do that study and it doesn't support itself for a.
But he
impact
has
fee.
information supporting that for us.
He can explain that to you, certainly.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on Director Webb?
No, Mayor.
Okay. So this completes the review of the action items that we formally address next Tuesday evening, May 13th at 6 p.m. right here at City Hall. We do have a special part.
When you're done, can you come to me?
When I'm done with,
He has
Saying
something
what you're gonna say.
to address on the agenda.
on the special meeting?
No, on the current agenda. He wants to talk to you
No.
about the current agenda.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. At our previous board meeting, the local permanently disabled veteran SDR ordinance was voted on, resulted in a 3-3 vote. I listened to directors speak on that ordinance, and this is with respect to the work that went into the ordinance for SDR even prior to me and Director Beard joining the board. And so I respect all of the work that went into making the SDR ordinance the way that it is today. And I kept that in mind as I listened to the director's points and feedback throughout the discussion that took place a few weeks ago. And I have a couple of amendments to that particular ordinance that I want to share with the board. And Brian, would you like me to do that, or?
Sure.
I can pass it off to you. I do know one of the concerns by directors was the number of obtainable SDR licensures in this ordinance, meaning that 25 is too high. So an amendment of mine for us to consider to this ordinance is bringing that number down to 5. And one other concern was exceeding the cap of 400. To address that concern, I want to amend this ordinance so that licenses 396 to 400 are reserved for local permanently disabled veterans. So that means with these 5 SDR licensures, the cap would never exceed 400. Obviously, there could be some overlap at its initial start, but once we drop that number below 400, it's never going to rise above 400, so there isn't any threat to exceeding the current cap of 400. And that's the 2 amendments. And I want to see this ordinance come back to the board next week at our board meeting, including these amendments, and I'm hoping that I'll have your support to do so.
Well, first of all, if I recall correctly, I think Director Trustee made a motion for 5 and it died for lack of a second. You didn't even second that. But now you're coming back for a amendment with the very thing that he proposed that you didn't support. So, and then as far as the 396, 97, 98, 99, and 400, you're going to end up with STR slots that aren't going to be used potentially. Because you're saying those can only be used for totally disabled veterans.
It essentially just means that there are just five spots reserved for local permanently disabled veterans.
That may go unused.
That may be used by veterans as well. And it does satisfy one of the concerns of the board members, which was that it doesn't exceed that cap of 400.
Well,
There's families, Mayor, in this town right now who are depending upon this to pass to bring that financial security for their
you don't
family.
know, we never voted on that, so you don't know how many directors, I mean, there were directors, I would imagine, that were prepared to vote on the 5 for that, but we never got to that. So,
No, you're right. I did miss seconding Director Trustee's amendment proposal to 5. But I wasn't the only one that missed it either. And that's why I'm bringing it up now. After I reviewed that meeting, how I missed it is beyond me. It was a lot of stuff that was going on in my head. I was paying attention to the concerns of the board members. I was trying to do everything I could to get it passed that evening, and it did slip past me. And that's why I'm bringing it to you now. I recognize that it was one of the concerns for our directors is to bring that number down to 5, so that's why I'm bringing it in as an amendment.
Director Garcia?
What is the procedure to bring something that was brought before the board and failed to bring it back to the board again?
Sure. I think that the description of this as an amendment is not helping your cause. You can bring something back to the board if it's a new item, if there's differences involved. Maybe you have described differences that could be classified as a new item. But otherwise, it takes 2/3 of the board to vote in favor of putting something on the agenda for 180 days. If it's been voted up or down, 180 days passes, or 2/3 of the board, 2/3 of quorum, actually, would approve it coming back on your agenda.
And that vote would occur on the night of the meeting?
It would. You can't vote here. So if there were a motion to be made, it would have to be voted on next week.
So would it be better then to just bring a new ordinance with these amendments? I mean, with these amendments, it essentially is bringing a new ordinance.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're splitting hairs there. The subject matter is exactly the same. The discussion that we had 2 weeks ago is going to be the same discussion we're going to end up with next Tuesday if this gets on the floor.
I would disagree. I think this is
You're fine to
addressing some
disagree,
concerns.
But you know, I think 2 weeks ago, when we had the appointments to boards and commissions, you wanted to go immediately into executive session to discuss the civil service appointments. Of course, we didn't do that. And then later on, you indicated that you respect the decisions of the board. You know, wasn't intending to have anything that would sound otherwise. And then you come up short on the vote for the STR, and then you bring this back. I said, it sounds to me like you do not respect the decision of the board.
Well, Mayor, all due respect, I did ask you for that executive sessions where those conversations could have been held in exec.
It's inappropriate.
But you chose to say no to that.
It's inappropriate.
And I mean, this is part of what I'm doing here with you this evening is what happens in a lot of occasions where ordinances and resolutions are being drafted. You know, upon its first draft, there are sometimes some cases where the draft has to be amended. The draft has to be corrected. Maybe there's some concerns that I wasn't aware of by other board members, and after bringing it to the board, I listened to those directors, and their concerns are addressed in these amendments, which, as our city attorney is bringing, probably should just be constructed as a new ordinance, and that's what I'm wanting to do.
That's what would be, an item would be tabled, or to allow, you know, staff to rework something, not after a vote has been taken.
Well, this is a matter, too, of supporting veterans.
Oh, I think everybody here supports veterans.
Well, if that's the case, then there shouldn't be any issue with me bringing back this new ordinance that does address the concerns of board directors.
You know, like our city attorney said, it takes 2/3 vote to bring this item back prior to 180 days. Director Trustee, did you have a
Would that
comment?
discussion, thank you, Mayor, would that discussion be better held next week at our board meeting? And to decide if the board members wanted to bring an item back to this, we can't take any action right here. We're in a board agenda meeting.
Yeah.
We can't vote to bring something back next week.
You can't bring the same matter back.
Right.
Well, if it's amended, does that make it different?
Well, it's not on the floor to be amended. That's the issue. It's got to get back to the floor.
Well, what I was going to say
So-
that, or do I have permission to speak?
Please.
Okay. What I was going to say, that sounded like a lecture earlier towards Director Webb, but my question is this something that we could vote on? Is it something that could be placed on an agenda? So you said we need 2/3 vote. Is that something that we could do as a board without one person making the decision?
Yes, ma'am. And that would occur at a board meeting. This is
Okay.
an agenda meeting.
I understand. I
Yeah.
know where I am today.
But yeah, yes, ma'am. That, at the approval of the agenda section, a motion could be made to add something to the agenda. If it's something that's already been heard by the board in the last 180 days, then that vote to add that to the agenda would take 2/3 of quorum.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, just real
Sure.
quick, because he keeps
Holiday.
saying 2/3 of quorum. I know in the past we've had some discussion at the end of a vote. Can you say exactly in this board how many people that is?
Depends on how many are here. Quorum is a moving target. If all 7 are here,
I'd have to read it first.
you know, that is quorum. 7 is quorum, so that's 5 votes.
Okay.
If one recuses, as did last time, then you're down to 6. So 2/3 of 6. If there's only 5 here, then 2/3 of 5.
Thank you.
Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So Brian, would this be the place to find out from directors? Would this board rather see this come as a new ordinance or come as it was with amendments? When do we make that decision? Can we not make that one here today, this afternoon? And walk this on the agenda for next Tuesday?
Not really. The mayor sets the agenda.
Okay.
The board approves the agenda the night of the business meeting.
Can we make modifications to the agenda here today with the mayor's approval?
With the mayor's approval.
Well, Mayor, I want to ask you, can you approve that we bring
I think we
this as a
follow our
new
normal
ordinance?
procedures. It's not a new thing. You're just bringing it back.
Well, but I
Bring
mean,
it back.
the city attorney said that we could make these amendments and bring it as a new
Just
ordinance.
bring it back. You need 2/3.
With the amendments?
Bring it back with 2/3. Walk it on with 2/3 vote.
And you're saying to do this at the next board meeting?
That's the process. Director Garcia?
I have a comment. And this is for myself, but I prefer to have any thing that today, or as early as possible, before getting something the night of the business meeting to be walked on, so that I have time to, whether it's something new or something the same, and that the citizens have time to have their review of it and ask questions. So I prefer not to have something walked on of this nature, and that's my
Well, certainly,
input.
the information that Director Webb, and apparently he's had conversations with the city attorney, that they can work that up and say this is something that they'd like to present as an added agenda item, but it requires 2/3 vote to be on. I mean, you can get the information. It doesn't have to show up at 6:01 on next Tuesday, May 13th.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what
They could send it to you tomorrow and
What?
say this would require 2/3 vote to be on the agenda.
I think what the mayor's saying, Director Garcia, is that these amendments that would go into the existing ordinance could be shared with you as soon as Brian has it ready to share out to the board.
Well, I also would need to be posted for the public. It's not just me. I can't get it out to the public myself. But it's not, just for clarification, we can't amend, we don't have an existing,
I would see this as the same ordinance coming back. If you vote 2/3 quorum to bring the same ordinance back, once it makes it to the floor, then.
Then you can amend?
Then amend.
Director Holliday?
Thank you. I'm going to echo Director Garcia's sentiment. While, yes, we've all had this in the packet in the past, it will not be in the board packet online. Some people follow with that, particularly this idea of keeping the 400 cap and those last 5 being reserved. There may be people with opinions on that, and they wouldn't know to come and speak. And that would be my biggest concern with, if it were to come back on, there may be people in the public who would have strong opinions one way or another, and they wouldn't know to be here. Because most people don't listen to the agenda meeting, they just see what comes out. So, you know, it would take a little longer, I think, ideally, to get the most public input, and for us to have everything, it would be drafting a new item that includes these amendments, in which case, then it is a totally new item. It'll be here in 2 weeks at our next agenda meeting. And then the public would have the opportunity to review it, just like they do anything else.
So we've dealt with things like this over the years. In some instances, as I think you're suggesting, again, your vote to put it back on an agenda has to take place at a business meeting. So a vote could be taken at the next business meeting to add it to a subsequent agenda.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that would be
All right.
good.
Director Webb?
Yeah, if we were to do either one of those options, do we not have any way to present in a packet this item as it is now, if we're bringing it back the way it was to be amended at a board meeting next week? And if we do bring it back the way that it was, only to be amended later, if we receive less than 2/3 quorum, that ordinance as it is would go away, but could we bring back a new ordinance that has the amendments already in it back to the board for the next board meeting? I mean, if we get the 2/3 vote and then we get the amendments in and it passes, that's great. That's what I'm hoping we do. But if we don't, could we bring it back in 2 weeks with the amended items in the ordinance? Does that make sense as a new ordinance?
I think, are you suggesting what I mentioned, that you vote next week, and if the board approves putting it on a subsequent agenda, then we're able to work it up and put it in a packet? I don't.
That's option B, right? Option A is just voting 2/3 quorum to bring back the item and then get the amendments in and then voting on it. That's option A, correct?
That's your
And then-
option A, yes.
But then option B is if option A isn't perceived as a doable notion for the entire board and it doesn't get back on, then option B is to draft it as a new ordinance with the included amendments to bring it back to the board so that it is in the form of a packet, so that it goes out just like normal packets do
Sounds like
at the
same
next
thing
board
again.
meeting.
Yeah, I think you're into C at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a, option 1 would be for you to convince the board to vote 2/3 quorum to bring it back as is next Tuesday night without the benefit of it being in the packet. Option 2 is for you to convince the board to vote 2/3 quorum to bring it back at a subsequent meeting that's worked up in the proper form that you want it to be and included in the packet.
Got you.
All right.
Or some hybrid, which is just bring back the original one at a subsequent meeting and you make the amendments at the meeting.
Can we see now where directors are on those options? Mm-mm.
We can't vote?
It's not a vote.
Well, okay.
All right, this concludes the agenda meeting. Immediately following the agenda meeting, we do have a special called meeting of the Board of Directors to consider appointments to the Historic District Commission and the Animal Advisory Committee. Do we need to do any change in technology?
Just real quick.